In this edition of Generations, we talk to Nancy Lisay of the Senior Resources Agency on Aging about their services and all things Social Security and Medicare, how you apply and what you need to look out for. And Judy James from Senior Centre CT.org joins us to talk about free stuff, what you can get and where you can get it. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith and welcome to Generations, a new podcast for people of your generation. We're talking Medicare again this month as it's open enrolment time until December 7th. And we're breaking down this complex subject as well as Social Security with Nancy Lisay of the Senior Resources Agency on Aging based in Norwich, Connecticut. Nancy, ever so many thanks for joining us on Generations.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Not at all. So we're going to be talking professional and personal on quite a few very interesting and important topics. But before we get on to that, tell us a little bit more about the Senior Resources Agency on Aging and what it does.
Certainly. Senior Resources, their mission is to provide access to information and services to empower adults to live with dignity. And that really has a lot of components. What we're going to talk about today certainly ties in. But the agency provides respite services for caregivers. It funds from the Older Americans Act, Meals on Wheels and congregate meals, and also pays for transportation and certain services and programs that really enhance someone's life that is trying to age at home. So we try to address their needs in any way that we can. And we've done some really creative things. We have a little pot of money called supplemental. And as long as an individual is 60 and over, we can pay for some creative things. Like I mentioned, we were able to purchase a mixing valve for one of our elders that was blind, and there was concerns about showering and getting too hot or too cold. We didn't install it because we're not, professional installers, but we were able to pay for it. We've been also able to pay for certain goods and services for folks, like cream and eye drops that are not covered by insurance, but the need is there. So we've been able to do that too. And the beauty of our programs is we have care coordinators right here. So we do not, farm out our programs. We are in control and we make the decisions based on state and federal regulations, of course. But we like to consider ourselves the one-stop shop for folks as they age and help their caregivers, because I don't think caregivers are appreciated enough in the fact that they provide a lot of free services that if an individual had to pay for would be excessive amounts of money. It saves the state and federal government tons of money in what unpaid caregivers do.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff.
It is.
So let's touch on some of these topics then. So we're going to be talking Social Security, Medicare, supplemental insurance and Part D. All of them sort of really tie into one another. So kick us off on the Social Security thing, because I think, it's one of those big subjects which we could spend multiple programs talking about. But let's talk a little bit of the nitty-gritty of Social Security from your perspective.
From my perspective, really the role Social Security plays for me as a professional is it is the only place that folks can enroll in Medicare. And of course it has open enrollment, special periods that due to certain situations, you move out of the area, you move back in, and now you're looking to switch a plan that you may have. So it's very diverse in what it does. It's not just a matter of getting, collecting Social Security. That's something that is a whole different process. But just enrolling in Medicare, Social Security is the place to go to enroll in Medicare. And there's two ways you can do it. You can present yourself at the Social Security office. I advise, as a professional, make an appointment first. and then you can enroll in Medicare speaking with an individual that is going to help you through the process. But what happens when you enroll is the Social Security office will often refer folks to our agency or similar agencies for counseling on how to fill the gaps in Medicare, and there's a lot of choices. But the Social Security office, again, will enroll folks, educate them on the enrollment periods, and take care of putting them into Part A and Part B. But oftentimes, people turning 65 want to enroll in Medicare Part A, but are still working. So it's a good idea to enroll in Medicare Part A, even if you're still working, because typically if you've worked 40 Social Security work quarters, Part A is premium free. Part B has a premium that you have to pay each and every month. This for 2018, it's $134. It's going to go up to $135.50 in 2019. So there is a premium. So the idea is don't enroll in Part B when you have quote unquote credible coverage. So the Social Security office would tell folks that one piece of information. Oftentimes we get people coming in that haven't even spoken to Social Security yet, and that's where the education is provided when they come here. And as a professional, it is important that people understand the enrollment periods. They understand what Medicare Part A is, what Part B is, what Part C is, and what Part D is. But I feel like a commercial. But wait, there's more, because folks need to know about the supplemental plans that are available, and also prescription drug plans that cover prescription drugs only. So it's not a supplemental, it's prescription drug coverage. And then there's Medicare Advantage plans, which is, I want to say, like a marriage between Part A, hospital, Part B, medical, Part D, prescription drugs, and then it's like a one-stop shop. However, there's rules regarding that. And if you're in a managed care plan, they call it Medicare Advantage, you need to stay in a list of providers. And if you have the option of going outside the provider list, then realize you're going to pay more. And it's very difficult for people to make decisions, because the bottom line is any health insurance is wonderful if you're not sick. But when folks become ill, and as they age, oftentimes that's the case, then it's a cumbersome process to go through the education piece. And I just got some good advice from another professional that on the initial counseling session, she advises her clients to talk to other people, other professionals perhaps, to get a global view of how the process works, what the options are. Because it took me 30 years to learn the information I'm imparting to folks, and it's an hour visit at most. So it's as a professional, it's very, you have to be able to communicate, and that's more than words. You know, you have to demonstrate with written information, body language, because when people aren't understanding what you're saying, you have to watch that you're not becoming annoyed and that it shows. You know, so it's that kind of issue.
Yeah, I mean, it is, from the sounds of it, without being too negative, it sounds like a minefield. And from what you're saying is you really do need to ask questions. You need to ask people like you. You need to go and speak to experts. It sounds like this is not something you should even attempt to do on your own.
It's very difficult. Some folks, well, you get people that come from the insurance world, or maybe a registered nurse, somebody that is, you know, skilled in like maybe medications, but then do not realize that in Connecticut, in 2006, there were 66 prescription drug plans available. Fast forward to 2018, there's like 24 or 25. In that complex field. Then you have other barriers. You have, is there step therapy? Is there prior authorization? Is there quantity limits? And people need to have, first of all, the correct spelling of their medication, the milligrams that they take, and how many times you take that prescription drug. Because if you're looking at a 30-day script, if you're only taking a certain medication once a day, then the 30-day script is going to be fine. But if you're taking it twice a day, then you need 60 pills to make up that 30-day script. So that is complex in itself. And then you throw in the deductibles and co-pays of traditional Medicare, which is the hospital coverage. There's a deductible. And once you meet that deductible, if you're in the hospital and then you get sent to a skilled nursing facility, then you need to make sure, first of all, you meet the qualifying stay, you meet the qualifications, and then you get sent to the skilled nursing facility for maybe rehab, maybe you broke your hip and you had surgery and now you're, recuperating and learning how to transfer and dress and those issues. People don't realize Medicare only pays 20 days. From day 21 to day 100, there's a copay. So that's good to know how the deductibles are triggered, how the copays are triggered. And then you throw Part B on there, and that's like an 80-20. But that also has a deductible too. So when folks ask, do I need a supplemental? It's hard to decide that unless you know what the gaps are. What are you actually supplementing? And when you look at the copays and premiums, if you're ill, that can equate to a lot of money. If you're not ill, you never go to the hospital. You see your doctor once a year for a physical, maybe, then it's going to be a lot less than that. So people have to decide based on their finances and their health. What's their health like?
Let's touch on obviously supplemental insurance, because that's something that obviously can aid. Again, it's still a cost factor.
It is.
For people. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, the supplemental insurance supplements the copays and the deductibles of Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B. That's what a supplemental does. And that's oftentimes referred to traditional Medicare with a supplement. But now you need prescription drug coverage as well, because the supplement is not going to cover your prescription drugs. So you need a Part D plan. And again, it's the same issues. You need the correct spelling of the part, the medications. And then you got to go through that process. So with that, A, B, you need D, and oftentimes a supplemental to limit the copays and the deductibles that you're going to pay out. But now there's a premium associated with the supplemental plans. And what folks don't realize is the plans are standardized, but the premiums are not. So we have like about 10 providers in Connecticut that sell supplemental plans. So if you opt for Plan N, I'm going to say, it's going to be the exact same thing whether you get it from Blue Cross, whether you get it from United Healthcare, whether you get it from Globe. The plan is the same. What's not the same is the premium you're going to pay. So when you're talking to folks, you tell them, look out for your pocketbook. You decide what you can afford, because we're not asking them intrusive information about, what their income is. We're just explaining what their options are, and they need to make a decision. And that's what's great about sitting on this side of the table, explaining it, because all you're doing is explaining. You are not making decisions for them. And oftentimes they'll say, well, what would you do? What I would do is going to be completely different, because I have different health, I have different finances, I have different needs.
Now, from a retired point of view, what steps have you taken?
This is interesting, because I just explained that it took me 30 years to acquire what I know about Medicare. When it was my turn, Because due to the issues at the agency, I opted to go on Medicare when I turned 65, not take my employer's coverage, because number one, I could, because we have 20 or less employees here. That's not a choice other folks have. So I opted to go on Medicare and pay my own premiums and choose a Part D plan for myself. Choosing a Part D plan was fairly easy. I went with the cheapest one because currently I am not on any maintenance medications. So that was the easy part. Going forward, it probably won't be that easy once I need some maintenance things, whether high blood pressure, cholesterol, eye drops, it could be anything. I'm going to face the complexities that I so easily explain to other people and expect that they're going to make a decision. When you're making a decision for yourself, you question, do I really know what I really know? Enrolling in Medicare Part A and B, I didn't even take my own advice. Usually I tell people, make an appointment and see somebody face to face to explain, a lot of the enrollment stuff. I opted to enroll online, and that was an adventure for myself because I was trying to figure, and I think it would have been easier had I looked at the website before I just decided to enroll. I successfully did enroll, but what would take maybe the data entry person that we have maybe 10 minutes to do, it took me pretty close to a half an hour because I wanted to answer questions that they haven't even asked me yet, like when do you want it to start? That question didn't come to the end, but I kept looking for it as I was going along. So it made it a little bit more complex to enroll myself in Medicare Part A and B.
And the Part D aspect, obviously the prescription drugs, I mean, would you sort of advise people, if they are currently on Medicare? I mean, one, they do have to check it every year because sometimes, medications can drop off of certain,
Formularies, yes.
But also maybe go and see their local pharmacist and chat with their local pharmacist.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oftentimes what we get here is the pharmacist printout for the folks that are, changing their plan, but you're absolutely right. Formularies can change and oftentimes do. There's like 300, a little over 300 formularies nationwide. They're not all in Connecticut. So it really behooves people to do due diligence and get a screening. And it's, even if you're savvy with the computer, it's www.medicare.gov. You go to find the drug plans and find plans, and once you input what your prescription drugs are, the printout is fairly easy to read because it tells you what economically is best for you. But that doesn't mean that's best for you. It just means that it's the cheapest plan. But when you're looking at the barriers we talked about, step therapy, prior authorization, quantity limits, oftentimes people are better off with a plan that don't have those restrictions, and it may be more expensive. So that's the dilemma that, people are facing, and that's the dilemma I faced myself when I was enrolling myself. But at least I didn't have to make that, but I'll have to make that decision down the road, I'm sure. And I'll be questioning, am I doing the right thing?
Nancy Lise, Director of Education and Training at the Senior Resources Agency on Aging. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for taking us through this because, as we said, it is a very complex situation, and people need to, take time, use resources like your organisation, because at the end of the day, it's their health and they are responsible for it.
And we do not charge to help folks figure this out.
Our thanks to Nancy, and if you want to find out more about the services of the Senior Resources Agency on Aging, you can visit their website at www.seniorresourcesec.org. And Judy Jenks from seniorcenterct.org is with us as usual. Welcome, Judy.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm very good. Now, apparently you're going to tell us all about free stuff. That's our favourite word.
Yes, we all want something for free.
We do.
Or we want that discount, whatever that discount is. It's important to us. So today I wanted to talk about the discounts and the free stuff for seniors. And I realized a lot of these programs are also available for veterans. And then some of them are for everybody. So we can all get out there and get something for nothing. And if you don't ask, you miss out. So you need to ask. If you think, gee, I wonder if I could get a bargain on this. You need to ask, because perhaps you can. The worst thing they can tell you is no.
Absolutely.
And that's not a bad thing, because you asked. And I realized as I started doing some research for this, on Craigslist, they have a whole section of just free stuff. So let's say you were looking for, maybe you needed a few bricks to finish a walkway or something. Maybe you could go on Craigslist and find those at no cost. You just need to go pick them up. On Facebook now we have those, I call them yard sales. I'm not quite sure what they are, but you can go on and you can list, that you've got a truck for sale, or, you're looking for this. And so that's a good resource. Here in Connecticut, if you're 65 and older, you can get a free hunting and fishing license. Connecticut just started something recently for state parks. If your car has a Connecticut license plate, you get in the parks for free.
That's
that's a really great thing. It's really not free because our registrations went up $10 each to pay for that. So we're paying for it, so make sure you use it.
Absolutely.
And then banking. You can go to and ask at your bank. You reach a certain age. One of the banks is 55. You get free checking. So that saves quite a bit over time. Also, there's free college. If you're 62 and over, the fees, the tuition is waived. And you can take the college classes. You can actually earn a degree. I did check a number of states. They're a little bit different, but go out there and look, and you can get the tuition waived or greatly reduced.
So there are the advantages of aging.
Yes.
Look at this.
Well, let's say you're somebody who has taken classes over a period of time and have a few credits you need to earn to get that degree. Why not? You buy your book and you sit down and you earn your degree.
That's great.
And it's amazing. Yeah, 62. And a lot of people are working long beyond that.
Well, this is it, isn't it? And also it's a case of, and I've always used this mantra throughout my life, is you're never too old to learn.
Oh, no, not at all.
So why not take advantage of it? Because there's some great stuff out there.
Well, let's say you wanted to make a career change. Let's say you've always done what you're doing and you've always thought, gee, I'd really like to turn 62 and go take those classes and go off and do what you want to do. We're living much longer. So whatever, maybe you wanted to start a business, maybe you just wanted to do something else. Go and do it. Why not? Because it's certainly not going to hurt your pocketbook any.
Certainly isn't.
No. Income taxes. AARP has trained preparers, and they'll do your taxes for free. You can check your local senior centers for the appointment. Also, you can take a driving class, and it is only classroom. There's no, going in vehicles or anything. It's sort of a refresher. And you can save 5 to 10% off your auto insurance by taking that class.
That's worth it.
Oh, it is, because I believe it's $15 if you're not a member of AARP to take the class. So that's the most expensive. You get the discount, and I say 5 to 10% because it depends on the insurance company, and then it's good for 2 to 3 years. So you could save, depending on what you have for vehicles, you could save like $150, $300 a year. And so it's well worth doing. A lot of the senior centers do those classes, so you can go to seniorcenterct.org, go into the search bar, put in driving class. It will drop down and tell you which senior center is having that class. And you can fit it into your schedule and save some money. You can also contact your utilities. It could be the light company, it could be cable company, whatever. And You have to talk through the process, but once you get to the retention department, because they're all vying for you to be their customer, you can get a discount on that utility. And some of those are well worth doing. And usually once you've achieved that, that discount is going to be good for 12 to 24 months. So it's well worth spending your time doing that. Also, if you have prescriptions that are not covered under your plan, and that formulary changes, so we never know, and it's unaffordable for you, talk to your doctor's office, and a lot of times you can get medication through the doctor's office. And again, it's only what's not on your plan, and if it needs to be unaffordable for you.
The other thing to point out, because I spoke to Nancy about this earlier in the show, is also go and see your pharmacist as well.
Yes.
So wherever you're getting your drugs from, it's going to speak to the pharmacist, because many of them now are sort of like providing services where they can actually go through your drugs with you and talk you through there. So that's another avenue, just in case your doctor is a little bit busy immediately.
Right,
But certainly
right,
go and see your pharmacist as well.
And pharmacists is something that we really sometimes neglect. They're a great resource for a wide range of everything. So don't be afraid to ask them. Also, legal assistance. There is a number of different programs out there to help you, whether it's with Medicaid, Medicare, and housing. So you can check on 211 to find out what resources out there for legal advice. And again, you can get a consultation. It's for free, and they can help you out. Some of these are low income, or it's just available. If you have a question, go out and ask. The library. At the library, you can get free and reduced passes for museums and attractions. They have e-books, they have e-audio books, so that's a great way to save money. For a museum, it might be 10%, 20% off the cost of a ticket for up to 4 people. Discounts at stores and restaurants. You never know who's doing that. Again, if you don't ask, you miss out. And a lot of us shop at Kohl's, and they offer 15% every Wednesday for people 60 plus. So that can be a huge savings. And then there's a lot of resources right in your community. There's the Area Agency on Aging. Here in this part of Connecticut, it's Senior Resources. They don't charge for any of their services. Senior centers, municipal agents are in the community. And you really need to ask, because you have no idea what they can do to help you. And a lot of times they can help you solve your problems. And your town hall. Your town hall is a wealth of information. And earlier I had mentioned 211. Here in Connecticut, it's 211ct.org if you want to go onto their website. And you can call them just by dialing 211, and they're a huge resource for any number of things. So call them. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was there's a number of websites out there. And they, will tell you, like all of the restaurants and all of the other places you can get discounts. And I just want to make people aware that they need to check the date in which that article was published, because when I was looking, I saw some of them were dated 2009. So I don't think those discounts are going to pertain to today. But go ahead and check, and again, keep asking, and you're going to miss out if you don't ask.
Absolutely, and I suppose the final quick thing to say as well, apart from thank you as always, Judy, for your insightful information that you bring obviously to the show, is also if you're a member of AAA or AARP, they all offer discounts as well. So obviously do check out their websites. And the point that you were making about be careful, it's not an outdated discount. Hopefully, if you check out those sorts of organisations, those ones will be in date, and they offer plenty of discounts as well. As usual, it's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me again, and this is wonderful.
And we'll catch you again next month. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
That's all from this edition of Generations. Don't forget to visit seniorcenterct.org to find out what's going on in your neck of the woods. And if you want to send us a topic to talk about or want to be our guest on the podcast, do drop us a line by visiting the seniorcenterct.org website. Go to the bottom of the homepage and click the How to Advertise with Us link to get in touch. From myself, Brian Scott Smith, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.